All right. Hello and welcome to the new SEO and AEO formula. Really excited for today's session. Really excited to talk about some of the latest trends, the latest strategies for getting your plumbing, HVAC, electrical home service company ranked in the places where your clients are searching. And historically, when we think about SEO, we think about where your customers search when they need your services. Historically, we think Google, right? Almost exclusively, it was Google for the last decade. They would go to Google and they would type in plumber near me, HVAC repair in my area, best contractors in my area. Just type Google in the comments here if that's been your kind of like where you thought everybody was looking. And there was a little bit of a time where before that they were going to Yahoo, and there was a little bit of a time where Bing was a little bit in the mix, but predominantly Google has been the 100-pound gorilla in this industry. It was the number one place. Well, there's a little bit of a shift happening. I wonder, are you, your family, using some of the generative AI search platforms like ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity? Just let me know if you are. I know some of us are, some of us aren't. But I'm going to talk a little bit today about the fact that some of your customers are starting to use those platforms extensively, right? They're going and they're all day in communication with their AI chatbot on ChatGPT, either the app or the desktop, asking it questions, asking about the best restaurants in the area. And we're starting to see a little bit of a shift, and I'll show some of the data for this, towards your customer looking on those platforms. And that's what we call there's a debate. Is it AEO or is it GEO? Answer engine optimization is AEO, which historically would have been your Alexa device. It would have been your Siri on your cell phone. And GEO is actually generative engine optimization, which is more of these new platforms like Claude and ChatGPT. And either way, whatever you call it, I think we can all agree we want to come up when our customers looking for our services in our local market. Yes or yes? And the answer is absolutely yes. So on today's session, we're going to talk about the SEO strategies that ring true that you need to put in place to get ranked for your most important keywords. And we're going to talk a little bit about GEO, generative engine optimization, as well as answer engine optimization, and where things are headed in that regard. I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to get right into it. All right. So I do have a workbook, a fully updated workbook for you guys that will help kind of checklist this through you, help you think about what you need to be putting in place on your website with your SEO strategy off your website. And you can access that at plumberseo.net/SEO-workbook. Christian just loaded that into the chat. That's plumberseo.net/SEO-workbook. And SEO, this whole strategy around coming up in the non-paid listings where our customers are looking, where we're not paying per click, we're not paying per listing, we're not paying per lead, is just part of your overall digital marketing strategy for your plumbing, HVAC, electrical home service company, right? And it falls into our accelerated growth model. And the way we think about it is we've got to drive leads, we've got to maximize conversion of those visitors into leads, those leads into sales, those sales into repeat and referral customers that use this again and again. And then we've got to optimize the results, right? We got to figure out, if we're spending money on digital marketing, if we're spending money on SEO and paid search and all of these different things, how much money are we making? Having the tracking dialed in, and then making strategic adjustments to double down, to spend more effectively on the things that are working right now in the moment based on the data, where we're not guessing, but we know here's how much we spent, here's how many leads we generated, here's how much ROI was generated, down to the source, SEO, paid search, what paid channel, etc. And I really found that when you've got this whole model dialed in, you can consistently grow the business. You can consistently add technicians, and you can keep the business in a constant state of momentum. And so, as we zoom in here today, like on the accelerated growth model, these are all the things we want to put in play to be on track to triple your sales every 2 to 3 years in your plumbing, HVAC, home service business. We're going to focus today predominantly on the organic side of the equation, right? That's not to say it's the only thing, but that's what we're going to focus on today, is making sure we're set up to come up in the non-paid listings because of our brand, because of our authority, because of the way we've structured our website and our off-page authority. So we're coming up instead of the competition. And, this is part of our digital dominance method, right? SEO, local service ads, retargeting, online directories, PPC, social media management, marketing automation, driving repeated referral business. It's all part of a bigger picture. So we're going to get into it. I just want to ask, for those of you on with me live, have your webcams on, engage with me in the chat. Close out your other distractions. Let's be in the moment. Let's focus on this. I'm going to give you some great new information, and we're going to get right into it. So on today's session, predominantly what we're going to focus on is the latest updates with the Google algorithm, how AI answer engines, GEO, AEO, whatever you want to call it, are shaking up the market. The things that you might have put in place in the past that could actually be hurting your online presence today, and kind of our new formula on how to rank your company using SEO and GEO strategies. For those of you that don't know, my name is Josh Nelson. I'm the founder and CEO of Plumbing and HVAC SEO. We're a full-service digital marketing agency serving the home service industry, specifically plumbing, HVAC, home service contractors. I'm the author of the book, How to Triple Your Sales by Getting Your Internet Marketing Right. Very active in Nexstar, QSC, Service Roundtable, CEO Warrior, some of the best groups in the industry. But I'd say more important than any of that stuff is that over the years, I've had the opportunity to work with hundreds of plumbing, HVAC, home service companies in competitive markets across the country, and been able to help them see them go from, struggling online to the point where they're now the dominant players. Several of them seeing millions and millions of dollars in annualized revenue growth, a couple having massive exits to PE firms. And so what I share with you is not based on theory. It's not based on, hey, I read this blog post somewhere. It's based on a real world experience in the trenches, actively working with hundreds of companies just like you, seeing what's working, seeing what's not working, testing new things, implementing new strategies. And I bring those ideas and strategies to you on these workshops and sessions that we run. And this is what we do, right? All day, every day. We've got a team of 60 employees across the globe, all day, every day, for the clients we serve, setting up the website, building the content, implementing the strategies, and really tracking the results to help you grow and scale. And if at any point you're like, hey, you know what, Josh, this sounds great. I just want to talk with you about how you can do this for my company. We'd love the opportunity to chat. To schedule, you can just go to plumberseo.net/schedule. That's plumberseo.net/schedule. We'll do a complete review of your current website, online rankings, digital marketing strategy, and see if we can help and see if we'd be a good fit to serve you. So without further ado, let's get into the new SEO and GEO formula. And I want to start by asking, does SEO even really matter, right? In the grand scheme of things, with the search engines constantly changing the way things work, with, answer engines coming to play, with more and more local service ads and paid results coming up, is this like an outdated thing that we shouldn't even think about in today's market? And I want to tell you, it really does, right? If we search right now on Google, which still the lion's share of your potential customers are doing, they're going to Google on their smartphone or on their desktop, and they're searching your city plumber, your city plumbing, your city AC repair, your city drain cleaning, your city electrical services, your city EV installation. They're typing those keywords, and this is what they're seeing, right? They're seeing local service ads, and then they're seeing a map. They're seeing some organic listings. They're seeing some paid listings. And statistics as of today still tell us 71% of the clicks go to the top 4 listings, right? 71% are going to go to somebody on that first page. Despite the fact that we've got local service ads, despite the fact that we've got paid ads, still most of the clicks go, to the top 3 map listings and or the first handful of results on the first page. And that's data, the latest data by Mozcast on their feature graph. That's where that data is pulled. So a good example of this in the real world is the Meridian Company, full service plumbing HVAC, electrical, remodeling based in East Lansing, Michigan. You can see great website. If we run a couple searches, you'll see it comes up for the majority of the terms in the map and the non-paid listings if we were to search around. And then if you add to that, we go to ChatGPT and we run a search for, who are the best plumbers in East Lansing, Michigan, you can see they come up right at the top in that search result from ChatGPT, which is generative search result. But more important, right? We'll get into the specifics of this stuff as we go, but answering the question, does SEO really matter? This is their tracking report. And we're really maniacal about tracking the data and knowing how much we're spending and what the results are. So on an average month right now, we're spending about $8,000 in online marketing. So that's our management fees, Google ad spend, local, I don't think that includes local service ad spend, but $8,000. And we track like how many leads do we get for that? So that's 417 leads for an $8,000 investment. That's about $19.31 per lead. Really, really solid in this industry. And then if we drill down and say, like, where are those leads coming from? Well, 95 from organic, 127 from the paid search, 173 from the maps, a mix from web forms. And what I want to call your attention to is that, a lion's share of these leads are coming from organic sources, right? From the Google map, from organic, which could be a mix of, they searched Google and they saw a page, or they searched on ChatGPT and were directed to the website. It kind of all of that fits into this organic equation. So that's 65% of the lead flow from organic. If they didn't rank well, if they didn't have a known brand, if they weren't coming up for those types of results, that'd be 60%, 65% of the opportunities that they missed. So hopefully that makes the point that yes, it still matters. We still need to come up because your customers are still clicking there and they're going to call more likely than not from an organic source than a paid source. So that leads to the next question as we parlay in today's workshop is, what is AEO and GEO and how does all of this stuff, play in? And so I briefly touched on this, but AEO is answer engine optimization. And it focuses on creating content that answers customers' questions on platforms like Google Voice and AI generated responses. So if you were to ask Siri, Google Voice, Alexa, which I'm sure now my Alexa is going to want to chime in. Alexa, go away.
I'm not quite sure how to help.
Alexa, stop. You're optimizing for that. And I don't think the application on that is really as applicable as what we're going to talk about now with GEO, but AEO, in order to come up for those, and those voiced assistants, you have to answer questions. You have to have proper H card formatting on your website. There's some specific directories that you feed yourself to. From what I can tell, there's not a ton of search for that in like, I need a plumber, I need an HVAC company. Now, more relevant and prevalent in today's market is GEO, which isn't geographic marketing. It's Generative Engine Optimization. And that's the practice of optimizing your content to rank and get visibility on AI-powered search engines and chat tools like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Perplexity, Microsoft Copilot, which is Bing Chat, and other large language models. And if you look at all of these platforms today, ChatGPT is the most common. Let me know if you're using any of these tools, which one is the one that you use the most? Just let me know in the chat. But definitely ChatGPT is the most common. And as I look at my personal usage and my wife Yesenia, we've got a family with 3 kids. We run this business and are very active in a lot of other things. If I look at her, the kind of the person in charge of the household, she's using ChatGPT as her primary platform today. Like, she doesn't go to Google. She's got the voice search right on ChatGPT. I would say she spends an hour on there every day researching things, asking questions, getting information. And when she's looking to book a venue, when she's looking to find a good restaurant, when she's looking to find a hair salon, she's asking ChatGPT, who's the best person for me? And she's liking the results. And so she doesn't hop off to Google and she doesn't hop off to these other search engines. And so how does ChatGPT serve local results in today's market? I just want to get into this with you guys real quick, because if we go to ChatGPT, and hopefully you've played around with this a little bit, you're familiar with the technology, but let's just go to ChatGPT. I would say most people, when they use ChatGPT, again, they're using their phone and they've got the app installed and they're speaking to it as opposed to typing it in. But you might speak to ChatGPT and say, I'm looking for a plumber in Danbury, Connecticut. Who would you recommend? Right? And if we run that search, ChatGPT is going to go back and it's going to search the web and it's going to come back with its recommendations, right? And what's interesting, and this is relatively new in the world of ChatGPT search, it's serving an actual map result here. It's pulling in, a variety of companies, right? And you can see here, Carmine's Plumbing, Heating, and Air. This is one of the companies we have the opportunity and pleasure to work with over the last couple of years. You can see is coming up in the prominent result for this particular search. And so I thought this was interesting that, look, it's serving a map. Sometimes it serves a bulleted list. Like the example I showed you a minute ago, ChatGPT, if I were to search, plumbers in East Lansing, Michigan, which is the company I think I spelled plumbers wrong. So let's see if ChatGPT understands what I'm trying to ask. So there's a Meridian company, right? And so you can see it's literally just pulling in. If you look down at the bottom in this particular result, it's pulling in the Google search, right, on Google Maps. So that tells us there's a direct correlation between your actual SEO strategy and how well you come up organically and how well you come up on maps, in this case, and how well you come up in the ChatGPT search, right? This is literally pulling up their Google map listing. So having a proper local SEO strategy, which we'll be talking about here in a minute, improves the probability of coming up in this result. And in this case, a little bit different, right? It's pulling in this map. What we can do is we can click down here and see, like, what are the sources? Where's ChatGPT getting its information for this result? And it's coming from yp.com, the old Yellow Pages online directory, which is interesting. Nextdoor, which is a directory we definitely want to be engaged in. Best pros in town. And you can go down and see, like, what are the other online sources? So in this particular case, it's looking at the citation references. It's looking at what we consider a citation: company name, address, phone number, one of those free profiles that exist online. And it's pulling the companies that are prominent in those results. And so, if you look at these two different scenarios, in this case, we want to make sure we're optimizing our Google map listing. In this case, we want to make sure we're taking advantage of the citations, those free and or paid listings, like Nextdoor in this case, like Best Pros. Make sure we're claimed in there. Make sure we've optimized the listing. If it gives us the opportunity to upload photos, if it gives us the opportunity to fill in a bigger description, if it gives us the opportunity to generate a couple of reviews, if we can make ourselves stand out in the top 3 to 5 citations that ChatGPT in this case is pulling from, then we improve our probability of being the company that's coming up in this result. And the other cool thing we can do when it comes to ChatGPT here is we can ask, so what was your criteria for this recommendation? Right? Easier when I voice speak it. I'm not a super fast typer while I'm trying to type. So it's actually going to give us the answer, right? Think about the keywords that somebody might type in. They might speak in, and then, like, what's the criteria that ChatGPT tells us, or that Claude tells us, or that Perplexity tells us? In this case, it's saying proximity to the location, Danbury, Connecticut, right? So these companies are all close by. Online reviews and reputation, right? Your online reviews, we've always said this when it comes to ranking on Google Maps, is mission critical, right? And so even ChatGPT is looking at your online reviews, and it seems like they're looking at Google predominantly, but they're also looking at Yelp and Home Advisor and these other citation sources. Professionalness of the website, right? Does the website look good? Does the website have proper content? Is the website authoritative, right? So having a great website that's properly structured, that's professionally designed, obviously it helps with conversion, like we talked about last month, but it also helps with, with authoritativeness. Responsiveness and availability. It's asking for, like, what's your availabilities on your website, licensing experience. So really interesting to see what ChatGPT is looking at, and the fact that these results now exist. And I can tell you, some people may say, well, I don't think anyone's really going to look on ChatGPT for anything like this. I can tell you firsthand, I have personally reached out to and connected to local businesses from ChatGPT search. And we've personally landed clients on retainer-based services from people that found us because they searched in ChatGPT. So hopefully that explains this a little bit. Just give me some feedback in the chat, like a yes or a one, if that was helpful to kind of walk through how the search results are coming up and how you can think about why they're serving certain companies in the results. Nadine says yes. Okay, so that's a lot of fun. That's cool to see that, hey, like we want to make sure we're thinking about this. Maybe the trends are moving in this direction. Don't freak out. Don't say, oh, okay, I guess SEO is dead. I guess Google is a thing of the past. I just need to focus on generative search results. Well, here's still the reality. In today's market, Google has 10 million searches, right? And I'm not sure, is this monthly for home services? Approximately 10 million searches. ChatGPT only has like 500,000 to a million. So it's a small percentage of the total search volume for people looking for home services. Today, that number is probably going to trend higher in the years ahead. So we still want to be focused on Google. We still need to make sure we're coming up on the map and in the organic listings, but let's not sleep on where things may be headed, right? As more and more people start to use these tools, let's make sure we're coming up in those particular results. So bottom line, Google is still king for direct service-based searches, but generative engine optimization driven platforms are catching up fast, especially for FAQ style, educational, and comparison-based queries. So if we're thinking outside of just the head term, plumber near me, best, HVAC company in my area, and we're feeding it information about the types of equipment that you install, about why they might want to consider tankless versus tanked water heaters, what's the best strategy in your local market. Like when we create that kind of content and we post it on our website and we syndicate it out, which we'll be talking about here in a minute, we give ourselves the opportunity to rank or come up, I should say, for a vast slew of keywords on the long tail, on the longer end of the spectrum, which could be a significant amount of search volume. Many users are bypassing traditional engines using AI tools directly for service recommendations. And so you need to show up in both places. That's the bottom line. That's the point I want to make in this particular section. And so again, another great example of this is, right here, if we go to Google and we type in Danbury Plumber, we've got Carmine's coming up in the map listings here in the very top spot. And then we search on ChatGPT, which I just showed you a minute ago. You can see they come up right there in the prominent recommended, company in that particular city, in the city where they serve. The data tells us this is netting leads, sales, and revenue, right? So $3,600 invested in their SEO strategy, 447 leads generated, average of $7.55 per lead, with, you can see a lot of these coming directly from the map and organic results. So yes, SEO still matters. Hopefully I made that point. Just type yes if that made the point, right? We're looking at the data. We're seeing that, yeah, it's not just nice to show up from an ego play. It really makes a difference in the amount of leads, sales, and ultimately the amount of book jobs you're going to get within your company. So with that said, knowing that right now, the main thing these generative engines are looking for local specifically, is SEO specific information. Like if you're coming up on Google, chances are we're going to be coming up in those generative engine results. So these are the categories: technical, right? What we're doing with the foundation, indexation, crawling, broken links, 301 redirects, all of that fun stuff. On page, which is the actual pages we have, the way we structure the titles and the H1s and the meta descriptions. And that's what usually home service companies, that's what you're thinking about. What does my website look like? Does it have the proper stuff in place? But also really, really massively important is what's happening off page, right? It's your backlinks, it's your mentions, it's your social popularity, it's your brand recognition in the marketplace, because at the end of the day, it comes back to expertise, authority, and trust, right? That's where, if you've got 70 different home service companies competing for the same keywords in your market, and they've got all the technical and they've got all the on page, and they all have the off page in terms of links and citations and PRs and syndication, the tiebreaker is going to be the best experience metrics, core metrics, page speed, mobile responsiveness, no annoying pop-ups, right? We want to really optimize for trust in today's market when it comes to ranking. And again, I can show you a lot of examples of home service companies, maybe in a lot of cases, not the biggest company in the market, but still coming up first because we've got this dialed in. We set up their on-page, off-page, the expertise, the authority, and the trust. Now, separate to that is the whole conversation on ChatGPT. And I'm not going to read this out because I basically showed you exactly what ChatGPT is saying on this front, but it's your customer ratings, years in business, service range, are you available, your local presence, the actual website and the content on the website, and certifications and licenses, right? In your workbook, which I've provided, you've got a checklist, you've got all the details on this. So if you want to go back and you want to read those bullets more closely, it's in your workbook. It's available for you. So the new SEO formula in today's market has shifted, and there's some things we want to do differently. The way we approach it needs to be different. And so it starts with understanding the most important keywords in your service area and making sure there's actually search volume, because there's long tail and there's short tail. There's like the head terms that somebody might type in, like plumber, like plumbing, like water heaters, like drain cleaning, like indoor air quality, combined with your city. And there's no sense optimizing for a ton of different keywords. We want to figure out what are the ones that actually have search volume and have commercial intent, which means somebody is looking for your service in that moment, and we want to optimize to come up for those terms. Now, separate to that, we want to focus on the long tail by using tools like Answer the Public and People Also Ask, where we can figure out like what's the long tail spectrum of what people are asking about your services so that we can create content that answers those questions. And in today's market, if we can create text-based content and video-based content, we win, right? We're going to stand out in the marketplace because of the authenticity of real video content, either you, your technicians, or somebody on your team speaking about those particular frequently asked questions. So we want to use tools like Google Keyword Tool, WordStream, SpyFu, Google Ads to really dial in what those most important keywords are. One thing I'll talk about here in a minute is if you want us to do an analysis in your market where we'll figure out, okay, you serve whatever city you're in, you serve Dallas, Texas, and you're a plumbing and HVAC company, we'll do a complete analysis to say like, what are the highest searched, highest commercial intent keywords, and we'll give you a list of 100 of those keywords based on your market and your services, and we'll show you exactly what the search volume is, how many people are looking for that in your market on a monthly basis on Google and Bing. We don't have the data for ChatGPT and other generative engines yet, and then we'll be able to also show you exactly where you're coming up on Google Maps for those keywords so that you can see if there's a gap. And so if you're interested in that, it's completely complimentary. You can just go to plumberseo.net/schedule, put in your website address, put in your contact details, pick a time, and we'll do that entire due diligence process, give you that keyword list, and you'll have the data. Because intuitively we know like, oh, I could do this on my own. But since we've worked with hundreds of companies and we've got this pretty dialed in, we can give you that data to shortcut the process for you. Okay, so we want to figure out what the keywords are, and then we want to set up the website so that it targets those keywords, right? And I'll show some examples of this. This is pretty obvious, but having those keywords written in a way using keyword matching, we can optimize for that. And usually what that looks like is having pages for each of your services. So if you're a plumbing, HVAC, electrical company, and in plumbing, you do drain cleaning and trenchless sewer replacement, and you do drain cleaning, and you do garbage disposal repair, and all of those different things, repiping. Well, we want a page specifically targeting those services on your website. And then we want to geo-concatenate that, which means we want to combine those services with your main city that you operate in, as well as the surrounding cities and towns, right? So we can speak directly to the service in the market that you provide it in. And then we have to optimize for the website user's experience. And when you think about SEO, typically this is pretty common, right? We need pages for each of the services, we need pages for each of the cities. Then we have to optimize the titles and the H1s and the meta descriptions for all that stuff. Less common though is really focusing on, does this match the customer experience? So if I'm your customer and I get to the website, does it load easy? Does it load fast? Is the content readable to me as a human being? Does it speak to why I would want to choose you versus the competition? That user experience, AI's got Google and these other platforms have all kinds of metrics to see, like, are they staying on the page? Are they scrolling? Are they clicking? Are they doing some next action? And we want to make sure we've optimized for that user experience because it has a huge impact beneath the surface of what's just on the website and on the outside section of the website. And so we want to optimize for that, for the new SEO formula. And then we want to build authority through citations, through links, through digital PR. I'll talk more about that as we go. And then we've got to track the results, right? We want to make sure, like, okay, if these are the most important keywords, and this is where we're coming up today, and we're going to change things on the site, we're going to create new content, we're going to, do all of this stuff. Let's track how we're moving up in the search results to make sure it's moving us in the right direction. So we want to track our rankings, but we also want to track, did that lead to an increase in actual visitors to the website? Did it lead to an actual increase in leads, people calling in, people submitting online forms, people scheduling online? And most importantly, did it lead to net revenue growth? And that's where tracking the ROI back to the source is so important. And so the GEO side of this equation is we need to answer real questions clearly, right? So thinking about what the problems are, what the questions that your customers ask on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and create text-based content, video-based content that we can integrate into the website, into your online profiles. The most obvious is, let's ask these questions and let's answer them on our Google profile, knowing that that's very specifically speaking to Google and Google results and Google rich snippets and Google quick answers, but also that's going to get pulled in to those other platforms like ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity. Structure the headings and bullet points. AI loves clear formatting. So H1, H2, H3, bullet 1, bullet 2. There's pretty website design, and then there's properly structured and formatted websites that are easy for Google and these AI engines to see the information in a logical way they expect to consume it. First-party data and expertise. I'm not going to talk too much about this. Getting mentioned and cited online. So that's using digital PR. That's also reaching out to the local groups that you may be a part of or that you should be a part of, creating informational content, getting people to write things about you, which reference your company name, address, phone number, which builds your authoritativeness and likeliness to be pulled into these types of search results. And then there's ways that we can feed more of the content about your company through seeding questions, through seeding the answers that they give, and then test it with ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Refine to see what's working best. So I have a checklist for you. I don't want to read bullet by bullet. I don't want to bore you guys to tears, but like, this is big picture what we want to do, right? We want the pages on page. We want to properly claim our Google business profile. There's a whole strategy around that. We want to be creating authority by putting out new content in terms of posts and in terms of actual pages on our website. And then we'll want to build our authority through signaling. Signaling, I'll talk a little bit about how we do that to signal that we're the authoritative home service company in this market. And so again, I don't want to get into the too much of the minutia. I'm going to share some live examples, but to access the workbook, you can go to plumberseo.net/SEO-workbook. I'll just pull it up. That way you've got a visual references in terms of, oops, can I pull it up? Oh, I got it here. This is what it is, right? So like, whether you're looking at this on your own or you want to hand this off to a team member, it's just kind of walking you through what AEO is, what SEO is, kind of the key data that I've covered, high level on today's session, but then more importantly, the actual checklist, right? What are we doing on page? What are we doing with the Google profile? What are we doing with ongoing content? How are we thinking about GEO and AEO optimization? And so you've got that, and you've got some examples to reference if that's helpful. All right, so keywords, common keywords, right? We're gonna figure out what the keywords are people are typing in, and it's not just plumber plumbing, right? In plumbing specifically, there's literally hundreds of keyword permutations that have search volume and have commercial intent, and it's worth creating content, and it's worth tracking to try and rank in your city and surrounding cities for those particular terms, right? It's things like repiping, commercial plumber, trenchless sewer replacement, hydrojetting, right? These are all, if you do the service, keywords we want to make sure we're optimizing for and coming up for. And so we can share that keyword list for you. On the HVAC side, also, like it's AC, air conditioning, HVAC, indoor air quality, and then also like creating pages for some of the more popular brands, because we found is some people will actually look for, Bryant AC repair technician in my city, because they think, there's like specific specialists for their type of system. And so having those pages integrated into your website and the brands that you serve can give you an opportunity to come up in search. And so we do have a list of those keywords that you can access if you go to plumberseo.net/keyword list. What I found though, over the years working with you guys, is that it's like one thing to have a list. It's a far another thing to figure out how you're coming up for those keywords, and even a far another thing to figure out how do we actually make sure we're coming up in the search engines for them. And so what I'm going to offer to do is do a complete analysis for you guys. If you're on today's session, if you go to plumberseo.net/schedule, we will run that report for you. Like we'll give you the list of the keywords specific to your area and the services you provide, and we'll be able to show you visually, here's where you're coming up in Google and in Bing and in Maps, Google Maps. Shortcut that process, because you could spend a week doing that, or you could give us 45 minutes of your time, and we'll give you the complete report you can run with. So again, that's plumberseo.net/schedule. All right, so I'm just gonna get into some of the details here for this formula. On site, we want strong website with good user experience. Some of that in today's market is leveraging multimedia to improve on-page time and to separate yourself from AI-generated content, right? In today's market, your marketing team and or the agency you hired is probably using AI, ChatGPT or Claude, and they're saying, create this content, that way we can put it onto the site so that we can have these services. So there's tons of the websites, the internet is getting flooded with AI generated content, some of it good, some of it bad. And so one of the things you can do to stand out from AI is create video. And I think the strength of your brand and the strength of your multimedia is what's going to set you apart over the next 3 to 5 years. And so practically speaking, if you can embrace the idea of creating video out in the field, hey, I'm going to this home, this is the problem they have. Hey, I'm here at the water heater and it's not working. Here's the issue. It's this type of branded water heater and this is why it's not working. This is what we're going to do. And then talk to the customer and create that type of content. You will absolutely stand out. Now, for some of you with larger teams, the best way to do this would be to anoint a super tech, right? So if you've got 5 technicians in the field, maybe one of them has a bigger personality, kind of already enjoys, social media, maybe already does videos on YouTube and things like that, just because they either gravitate to it, or you just can tell that they'd have the talent for it. I would encourage you to say, hey, look, you're going to be our super tech or our media tech in the field, and I want you to create this type of video content, right? And we're going to maybe give that person some type of increase in compensation or a per job site fee that they get for capturing video. Train them like on what kind of video you want, how you're going to use it, how you're going to pull it all together. It will absolutely separate you from an SEO perspective, but also as a brand in the marketplace. All right, pages for each of the services. So that's if we do drain cleaning, if we do water heaters, if we do trenchless, if we do repiping, we want an actual distinct page on the website for that service. pages for each of the cities that we operate in. So in Miami, for instance, we would have the whole website anchored around, Miami plumbing, HVAC electrical services. But in Miami, if we survey 25 to 30 mile radius, there's a lot of little sub cities and sub towns. There's Kendall and there's Palmetto Bay and there's Pinecrest and there's Miami Beach, right? All of these cities and towns. And most of your customers don't type in the main city like Dallas or Miami. They're going to type in Kendall plumber in Kendall. And so we want to make sure we have pages for those smaller cities and those smaller towns that are unique content that are properly optimized for those cities, because that could be a great source of very high quality traffic that converts at a high level, assuming we can rank for those surrounding cities and surrounding towns. And that's the way we do that, is by having those particular pages on the website. And it's important that we use unique content for this. We can't just copy, paste, same thing for every city. It has to be unique so it stands out in the market. Keywords, and I don't want to get too technical, but titles and H1s, meta description that sell the click, right? When we run a search for, let's just do East Lansing cleaning as an example, and we've got the results that come up for this. Let's see. They have the actual title, which is usually what you've got in the thing, and then you've got the description. What we want to do is make sure that that meta description sells the click. It, like incentivizes you to want to click them versus the competition. So that's what I mean by that. It's just, selling the click. And then we want to be blogging on an ongoing basis using digital PR to build our authority. And we have to focus on site speed. This is a big part of user experience, mobile and desktop. How quickly your website comes up is mission critical. And so a great tool for this, if you just want to check your site speed, is GTmetrix. You can put your URL in there and it will show you exactly how quickly your website loads. There's also pagespeed.web.dev, and your website needs to come up quick, right? Otherwise, there's going to be a problem. And so if anybody wants to volunteer, like I'll just kind of pull up, as an example here, let's put in Carmine's, which we see comes up really, really well. I'll drop this into GTmetrix, JMS Express Plumbing. Michelle, if you could actually put in the actual website, that'd be great. And so, this will it takes a couple seconds, it runs in the background, and it will tell you if there's an issue, right? If it's like, how long is it taking for your website to load? If it's loading really slow, that impacts rankings. So here's this is really good, right? 91, it's green, green, green. Accessibility is, how easy is it for somebody that is hearing impaired, visually impaired? We do have plugins on the site to optimize for that. But really important that your site come up quick. All right, so let's look at an example here, JMS Express. All right, so let's see, looks like it's got a lot of the right stuff in place. It's got a lot of the cities down here. You might want to link to actual pages, but let's drop this in and check the site speed, right? So this was an example here for Carmine's, comes up really well. Let's JMS, and let's see. We just want to, while that's running in the background, Los Angeles, very competitive market. So I wouldn't guess that if we type in Los Angeles plumber, let's make sure it's actual plumbing here. Yeah, need a plumber in Los Angeles. Let's see. Not coming up. And what I would say is Los Angeles, very one of the most populated, markets in the country, and you've got massive, massive companies. Let's see if page speed is an issue. So 58, right? So site speed in terms of how the website is compressed, how the images are compressed, how fast the hosting is. Lots of things play into that, but this definitely wouldn't be helping you guys' ability to come up well in the search results in and around Los Angeles. We'll talk about let's see if we look at areas. So this is what I mean. We've got all of these cities on the site. If we really wanted to come up in, Studio City, for instance, we would want a page for that. And so as an example, kind of if we just kind of look at this here, Carmine's, we saw site speed wise loads quickly. We saw it ranks really well. We saw it generates lots of calls. We've got pages for everything, right? So drain cleaning, right? This is coming up for drain cleaning services in Danbury, right? But then we've also got the service areas, and we're not just listing all of those cities. We literally have pages for each of those cities. So let's just look at, Reading, plumbing. This is an actual page for Reading, plumbing and air with unique content, with a geo grid embedded. And that's what gives us the ability, having that breadth of content to come up for a lot of different keywords. So hopefully, Michelle, that was helpful. I appreciate you volunteering to cite. I see here Chris has put in catalytic air. Let's pull this up real quick. And I'll drop this one into Page Speed Insights here while we're pulling it up. All right, Catalyst, excuse me. We're announcing the expansion of Catalyst air conditioning to include Catalyst plumbing. Okay, cool. So we got plumbing and HVAC now. Let's see, services. We got service, repair, maintenance. Let's see, service areas. We're listing them. I don't see an opportunity to click them. So like that would be an opportunity, right? To have Captiva and Golden Gate and Marco Island. So this is like in the Southwest Florida area. Let's see, what is it? So, and also like if, I'm looking at the title tag here. We want to really closely signal the market that this company serves. So Fort Myers, AC company, Fort Myers. Let's just see. One-way air, island air, certified heating. All right, so not coming up, right? And I think there's definitely something to be said for that not being prominently featured on the homepage. There's some definite gaps here in the on-page optimization that would prevent the site from ranking. But it also, a lot of it could come down to off-page as well. So let's look at page speed 31. All right, so it could be the hosting. It could be, it could be the way the images are compressed, but this performance isn't helping you guys from a ranking perspective. But Chris, awesome. I appreciate you sharing. It's really helpful to see real examples, right? Because it's like, okay, hypothetical. But when you pull up real websites and you put them through these tools, you start to see, okay, I see what we would probably want to change on the website to get a different outcome. I see that this hosting isn't a small deal. It's a big deal. And you run it through either of these two tools, it gives you a really good sense. And so I'll pull up another live example here, and let's just go and type in Evanston. Hopefully I spelled Evanston right. Evanston, Indiana. I don't think I did. Hang with me. Trying to, obviously location preferences make a difference in here. Oh, that's a difference. I promise to get on with the content. There we go. This is Evansville, excuse me. So this is Bud's Plumbing in Evansville. And when I said there, like we want to signal to Google what this page is, right? Trusted Evansville plumber, Bud's Plumbing, right? And then up here, right on the H1, so you talk about formatting Evansville plumbers. So again, if we go to Google and we type in Evansville plumbers, there's Bud's Plumbing right there in the number one spot. Comes up really well organically as well. And then if we go to ChatGPT, people are going to type various things. They might say like, I'm looking for a plumber in this city, or they might type in like best plumbers in Evansville, Indiana. And there's Bud's Plumbing with the map result. So, I mean, hopefully I'm connecting the dots that like all of this stuff is connected. It all has an impact. And if we look at their website, right? Pages for each of these services, lots of content, and they come up really strong for all of these things like hydrojetting in their city, Evansville hydrojetting, right? Because we've got unique content that speaks to it. We've got H card format data. Then if we go into the service areas and we kind of drill down, we're like Evansville, like plumbing, water treatment services, plumbing, water treatment, New Brock, right? And so we can come up in a lot of these surrounding cities and towns because we have these pages on the actual website. And I kind of showed where they come up organically, where they come up in ChatGPT. And what's really cool is the data behind the leads flow, right? What's the data behind the lead flow? Well, they invest about 13 grand a month in online marketing. That's our management fees, paid ads, etc. But we track 828 leads every month. Divide that out, that's $16.35 per lead. And a lot of that's coming from the organic results that they get. And if we run that through site speed, right, which is the main metric we're talking about right now, right? They're an A on GT metrics. They're green on green. Really, really makes a difference. Another good example in Sparks, Nevada. Type in Sparks, Nevada plumber. There they are in maps. They also serve Reno, and they come up really well for that. And if we go to ChatGPT, it would say top plumbers in that city. Bam, there they are on ChatGPT results. So hopefully it's good to see these examples and kind of see how this plays out in the real world. What we want to look for, I try to do some visuals here. Keyword in the title, keyword in the H1, great content that actually speaks to the customer, that answers the questions, that has proper formatting, pages for each of the services, pages for each of the cities that we operate in. And then that's the on page, right? That's the website itself. Getting ranked on the Google map then is really about getting your citations and being referenced across the web and all of the online directories, having a properly claimed and optimized Google business profile, doing the on-page SEO stuff, the more technical stuff, as well as the basic content stuff on the website, and then reviews, getting real reviews from your real customers in your real service area. I'm a big fan of leveraging automation. So whether you're using Service Titan or House Call Pro, making sure that as a job is completed, a text message and an email goes out, right? Whether you're using Conversion Amp, which is our platform, or Customer Lobby or Review Buzz or PulseM, just make sure that you're integrating it so it automatically happens. The clients that we integrate that for, they just get tons of reviews. And those reviews have a huge impact on the way that they rank on ChatGPT as well as on Google and other search engines like that. And then there's off page, and I don't want to bore you guys to tears, so I'm gonna really slam through this quick. We're going to claim and optimize the listing. We're going to get lots of citations, right? If we go back to when we asked ChatGPT what they're looking for, that's really what Google's looking for as well. They're looking at these citations, and there's hundreds of directories that are local to your market, that are home service specific, that are, even just business centric directories that we can get you added to. And when we're in those directories, that passes authority, and that passes authority to all of these search engines. And then we want to drive our reviews, not just on Google, but on other platforms as well. Build authoritative, relevant links back to the website, and strategic content syndication and or digital PR, right? Which is putting out content that doesn't just sit on your website, but it actually gets pushed to local news sites, which pass authority, which pass citations, which build your authority and that expertise, authority, and trust side of the equation. And so, I could talk a lot about this. We started using a digital PR strategy that instead of just posting to the blog, we syndicate it out, and we've been able to get picked up on local news sites, on national news sites for our local plumbing, HVAC, home service companies. And it really does have an impact on our rankings. So again, I promise not to bore you to tears. The checklist has all these details. If you want to get into it, if you'd like our help, we'd love the opportunity to chat. This is something we're really passionate about. This is something we're really good at. Like, we've got a full team that does this every day, right? Setting up the website, doing the on page, doing the off page. The details matter, and really having those details dialed in makes a huge difference. So you can grab the workbook, or if you'd like, you can schedule a time with us, completely free of charge. We'll do a complete review of your current online marketing strategy. We'll give you that entire keyword list, and we can take it from there. So if you want to schedule, you can call us at 866-610-4647, or call us at or go to plumberseo.net/schedule. So we covered a lot of ground on today's session. We talked about the new SEO formula. We talked about GEO and AEO, Generative Engine Optimization. We showed a bunch of examples of how home service companies, plumbing, HVAC, electrical companies can actually rank in ChatGPT and on Google and on Google Maps. We showed the data behind, not just, oh, it's nice to rank, but how many actual leads and sales can come from that and how much revenue can be generated on the other end. I hope you found this useful. If you've got follow-up questions, feel free to post them into the chat here, or if you're watching this after the fact, send us an email, right? Feel free to email Christian@plumberseo.net. He checks his emails. He will get back to you with answers. And if you'd like to schedule a time, go to plumberseo.net/schedule. And thanks so much, everybody, for hanging out today. I'll hang out for a couple more seconds in case there's any direct questions. Otherwise, we will wrap it up. Awesome. All right, guys, have an awesome day. We'll talk to everybody again real soon.